Recently, Scotland passed a law making everyone in the country God with power over biology. It's called the Gender Recognition Law, and it acknowledges that every person in Scotland has magical powers that can change their own sex at will. So a rapist called Isla Bryson naturally took advantage of that. After arrested, he said he wanted to be in a women's prison because now he's a woman, because he's magic. So Scotland is now ending its policy of letting men serve time in women's prisons. But in this country, we are more backward and insane even than Scotland. So we're doing this. Still, last year, a character called Demetrius Minor, who's convicted of murdering his foster father, went to a women's prison in New Jersey where he promptly impregnated 2 female inmates. He was there because, of course, he said, "I'm a woman." So brave protesters are calling for an end to this grotesque insanity. Activists with the group Get Men Out held a protest at the state capitol in Trenton on Friday, and of course Antifa showed up to threaten them. Watch. Jennifer Thomas was one of the protesters getting hassled by Antifa.
These ladies are just getting ready to go live in front of the New Jersey state capitol in Trenton. All right, Jennifer, can you hear me?
I sure can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Are you guys still need a few more minutes, or how are you doing?
We need about 1 more minute, and then I'll come in. Okay.
Okay,
I'm just
great.
getting my sign that I don't think it's possible I'm going to be able to use that.
All right. So this is hey, Brittany, how are you?
Love you guys.
Yay, love you. Love it.
Thank you for your support.
Absolutely. All right. So these ladies are going to be speaking out today. Look at their amazing signs. I see Joy, who is Little Red Rad, in the background as well. But of course, this takes all of us speaking out on. We know that sex-based safeguarding is a massive concern. Women still face sex-based violence. This is, the era of sex-based violence is still very much present. Okay, we got sound. Okay, good.
Hey, everybody.
Okay.
Hello, fellow Turban supporters. You guys have no idea how much your support means. You have no idea how knowing that there is a team of women across the United States and across the world who have our back. So when we stand up against this wall of aggressive detractors, we know you all are watching, you have our back, and I cannot possibly be more grateful. Women are not protective custody for mentally ill men. They are not the support animals for men with a perceived disability. In 2012, Edna Mahan was deemed too costly to run because of the low numbers of inmates they had booked in the facility. To remedy this, the New Jersey Department of Corrections shut down New Jersey's only women's facility and transferred the booked women to a men's facility. In response, the American Civil Liberties Union, also known as the ACLU, filed a lawsuit against the New Jersey Department of Corrections, contending that it was a violation of the civil rights of the female inmates to be housed in a male prison because they were subject to male-specific programming that met the unique needs of men, while disregarding the unique needs of the incarcerated women. It seems that a mere 10, 11 years ago, the American Civil Liberties Union understood that men and women were distinct classes, that women are a class that has unique needs and unique vulnerabilities. And by not meeting these needs, by lumping them in with men, you are transgressing against the rights, the well-being, the constitutional protections afforded to those women, and that it is not okay. So what happened? How did we get here? The women returned to Edna Mahan, where they faced a decade of ongoing turmoil, corruption, and mismanagement from the facility, resulting in a multitude of lawsuits alleging abuse against the female inmates, both verbal, sexual, and physical. It's been clear for a long time how much we value the lives of these women, which is virtually none at all. Then in 2021, nearly a decade after the original lawsuit brought by the ACLU against Edna Mahan regarding female inmates in male prisons, the ACLU filed a new lawsuit against the Department of Corrections demanding that males who self-identify as women with no other justification be allowed to house according to their gender identity. What is a gender identity? Can anyone give me a clear answer? Because I can tell you what a woman is. A woman is an adult human female. But to this day, for the amount that I must speak out against gender identity, I still don't really know what the hell that means. But let's try to piece it together, shall we? The concept of a gender identity is this mystical, intangible belief that is akin to a religious belief. I thought we had a separation of church and state. Am I wrong? The idea that each person has some internal essence that identifies itself as either man or woman or demigirl or demiboy or boy-girl unicorn or horsey cat meow mix or any combination of those. And that this gender identity exists entirely independent of any sort of biological reality. Sounds like personality traits to me, does it not? There is no way to measure or assess one's claimed gender identity. You just need to take their word for it. It's based on faith. It is a religious belief. Trans, therefore, is a cult. The ACLU filed this lawsuit against the New Jersey Department of Corrections to allow inmates to house according to their abstract internal sense of gender identity, a demand to which the Department of Corrections quickly acquiesced. They put up no fight. Clearly, we know that they don't give any kind of a shit about women. And they confirmed it. Again, because going woke, protecting their views to whoever is more important than protecting the women charged to their care. Because once you lock them away, it's whatever happens to them, right? They're criminals, right? It doesn't matter. It seems that appearances and bowing to the woke mob is of paramount importance to the New Jersey Department of Corrections. From that moment on, Edna Mahan ceased to be New Jersey's only women's prison. It is now a mixed-sex prison in which men only have to apply and ask permission to gain entry. There are no other requirements. These men do not have to have gender reassignment surgery or sex reassignment surgery. That is a misconception. These men are intact. That is why women are getting pregnant. These men are sexually frustrated, sexually aggressive, violent men. They are fully intact. They have their penises. And they are being deemed as women. They don't need to go through any paperwork or process. They're just allowed right in. Doesn't matter what their history is. How exciting it must have been for the many violent sex offenders across the state of New Jersey. There was now an easy means by which to gain access to their target victim group to exploit for sex. All they have to do is say that they feel like a woman. Virtually zero other requirement exists, such as a pre-existing tendency to impersonate or live as a woman, whatever the hell that means. They don't have to medicalize. In fact, the vast majority of male inmates transferring to Edna Mahan are fully intact, sexually fertile males, the consequences of which were realized in 2022 when news broke that one of these males, Demetrius Minor, impregnated 2 captive women. What will happen to those babies? They will be released, ripped from the arms of their mother within 24 hours, and sent to be wards of the state. Are you out of your mind? But just be kind, right? Just be kind. Oh, it's okay. I'm live, baby. I'm live. We got thousands of people tuned in. No one can hear you. What's really good? These women were quietly punished and thrown into the whole administrative segregation, which is reserved for people who commit crimes while locked up where they languish, pregnant, alone, and afraid, awaiting the hell of having their newborn ripped out of their hands and handed over to be wards of the state within 24 hours after birth, and given nothing to help them get through it. But they said it was consensual. They said it was consensual. Women who are housed with hulking 6-foot-plus men who have a history of murdering other men with their hands, and you're telling me that when locked behind steel bars that you can have consensual sex? How does that work? You've got 3 options when you're housed with a man who wants to have sex with you. You can do one. Fight back. Fight him off you. I know one of the women was 5'2" and 130 or 40 pounds. How was she supposed to fight off Demetrius Minor, who murdered his stepfather with his bare hands, a man who had invited him into his home? She was supposed to fight him back. Step 2, option 2, hit the bell, call for help, right? From the same facility that has lawsuit after lawsuit for sexually and physically aggressing against these women and ignoring their needs. Call for help from them? Ha! That's a joke. My good friend Cheryl was locked up in a Pennsylvania jail. They had put, which is against the law, a woman who was detoxing off of Xanax. She said they were overcrowded in the cell. One person was on the ground on a boat. She was on the bottom bunk, and the other girl who was detoxing was on the top bunk. All of a sudden, she said she was laying there. The bunk started shaking. She said, "Yo, what are you doing? Knock it off." The girl didn't respond. It started shaking the bed again. She got up. She said, "Yo, I told you to stop." Before she could finish her sentence, that girl fell off the bed. She said she didn't have time to think or react. She tried to grab her but couldn't. The way that girl fell, it was immediately obvious that she died on impact. They mismanaged her care. They were freaked out. They said, "Oh my God, we have a dead body in the cell." The 2 girls got up. They started screaming and banging and begging for help, hitting the call button. You know how long it took for them to get a dead body out of their cell? 3 hours. It took them 45 minutes to get someone's attention. If you have a man who wants to come and have sex with you, who's sexually aggressive, you think they're coming to help you? What's your last option then? You either fight him off, you ask for help that isn't coming, or third, you close your eyes, you grit, and you bear it, and you wait for it to be done. Because you're trying to get home. Because you have children waiting for you. Because you just want to do your time peacefully and safely. This is what we've done. We know that sex while incarcerated cannot be consensual. The haphazard methodology of developing policies which have grave consequences on the lives for which they are charged to care is unacceptable. There is astonishingly little oversight in the formulation of these prison policies that are allowing intact males into the terrified women's quarters. And the DOC is given a vast net to make up policies and change them as they go. The only reason we are talking about this is because of the brave female inmates of Edna Mahan Correctional Facility who decided to stand up, and they wrote letters and they said, "We're scared. No one will listen to us. We need help. No one cares." Well, guess what? We care. We're speaking up. We are the voice of the voiceless. You're not alone. We hear your cries. Your life matters. It's all protect Black women until it's a man with a dress, until it's some 6'5" man who's abusing his son, making him call him mommy. What's wrong with you, bro? Let your wife go, you weirdo. The policies regarding the issue of housing males amongst women are vague, and they allow for preferential treatment with little process for checks and balances, weighing the needs of the women incarcerated and behind. Well, you know what? We say enough. We say enough. Get men out. Thank you, Brittany, for that passionate. Up next is Joy. There you go. There you go. as women do not have a voice. If you do not have a voice to say no, you do not have a voice to consent. That is why we're here. And I'm here to share her voice on her behalf. She said, thank you for taking time to reach out to me. I very much appreciate the work of you and others in spotlighting this utterly insane
Louder, ladies, if you can.
Facilities. The following is my statement to read at the upcoming rally. We know male bodies are dangerous to female ones. We need only look at rape and domestic violence statistics for confirmation. Women are especially aware of this basic fact. Now we are being forced to suppress our most base human instincts, self-preservation, for the benefit of males, many of whom are convicted sex offenders. When the males arrive, they cease hormone injections and continue living their lives as men. In other words, they drop the act and start doing what they came here for. They engage in sexual relationships with the women, manipulate them into purchasing their commissary, and have no qualms about bullying anyone who disagrees with them. Without the camera. Oh, sorry. Yes. I personally have been threatened with violence and had multiple false allegations made against me as retaliation for speaking up. While the state concerns itself with the alleged safety and dignity of men who merely claim womanhood, it ignores the true safety and dignity of actual women in its only female preservation for the benefit of males, many of whom are convicted sex offenders. When the males arrive, they cease hormone injections and continue living their lives as men. In other words, they drop the act and start doing what they came here for. They engage in sexual relationships with the women, manipulate them into purchasing their commissary, and have no qualms about bullying anyone who disagrees with them. Without the camera. Oh, sorry. Yes. I personally have been threatened with violence and had multiple false allegations made against me as retaliation for speaking up. While the state concerns itself with the alleged safety and dignity of men who merely claim womanhood, it ignores the true safety and dignity of actual women in its only female correctional facility. Thank you for your time and support. Thank you.
Hello, New Jersey. I am here to read an anonymous letter from an inmate in the Edna Mahan Women's Correctional Facility. The person who wanted to remain anonymous will be referred to as M. And this is her statement. Confining men in a women's prison creates another power dynamic and disparity in treatment. They are given privilege. I am not disregarding their humanity or choices. However, in the carceral situation, there should be a degree of separation in regards to housing at a minimum. Even the Olympics and sports organizations are now recognizing the anatomical differences that remain despite hormone treatment and physical strength. The vetting process has been deficient in acknowledging the wolves in sheep's clothing. And once it is discovered, it is ignored until there is an incident that screams and demonstrates a failure to protect.
Okay, Brittany is up next. She will be reading a letter from Dawn, a prisoner at Edna Mahan. Just give us a little second. It's a little discombobulated here with all this noise. Here you go, Brittany. This is a letter from Dawn.
Is this on? It should all be on.
We are home, my love. We are home. We're never going anywhere. Cry about it. This is from Dawn Jackson. Hi, Brittany. I hope this finds you safe and well. I'm hanging in here the best way I know how. I just wanted to stop by, check and see if by chance you received the email I sent your way last night. Anyway, I'm sorry. Anyway, here are my thoughts on the Edna Mahan Correctional Facility situation. You take very good care out there and be well. My story. My name is... Okay, yeah. It says, my name is Dawn Jackson. I'm incarcerated at the Edna Mahan Correctional Facility for Women located in Trenton, New Jersey. When I speak about the psychological turmoil being presently housed with trans-identified males, confronting that issue and how it affects me has much to do with the traumatic remnants of my unfortunate dark past. Since the arrival of trans-identified males here at Edna Mahan Correctional Facility, the dynamics have, without a doubt, changed. My dynamics. As a survivor of incest and ongoing childhood sexual abuse, psychologically it's been a great challenge being housed with trans-identified males still equipped with their manhood. I've discovered an involuntary camouflage about myself, feeling compelled to appease human beings, trans-identified males, I'm forced to live around and or be housed with, all for the sake of my physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Having to endure the unfamiliar era of confinement, I live with the emotional and mental reflections I have fought long and hard to disregard in my past life. Dynamically speaking, I'm subjected to the constant and unforeseen chaos which takes place in this prison, rearranging my sense of survival. And although I mentally distance myself, it's not at all with judgment towards any trans-identified males, but instead a defense mechanism which sustains me, keeping me shielded and safe from what their harm they can bring. Being subjected to live amongst trans-identified males who remain equipped with their manhood is extremely overwhelming and difficult for me. I was repeatedly raped as a child into my teens. Am I living amongst any rapists? And sidebar, yes, unfortunately, several. Trans-identified males do not belong closed and confined in prison settings strictly meant to house women and females born feminine. Trans-identified males should in no way be housed here at Edna Mahan, period. I've overcome many obstacles in my life, and so while I passionately and persistently continue to fight for my freedom, clemency application submitted 5 years ago to Governor Phil Murphy. Behind these confined walls, I'm now forced, having to learn, trying to survive the unforeseen dynamics of having to live again amongst trans-identified males. But why should I have to? This is greatly unjust. Additionally, Dawn also wanted to share more about her life. And again, we know that the vast majority of incarcerated women have a history of sexual and physical abuse. This rape should never be part of the punishment. And if it is, then put it in writing, damn it, so we can scrutinize it. You don't get just to slip it in there. But this is Dawn's second letter that she wanted to share about her life so you understand the life that these women are coming from, why this matters. It's my story. My name is Dawn Jackson, formerly known as Dawn Wilson. I am the mother of 11 children and 20 grandchildren. I was sentenced to 30 years in prison at Edna Mahan Correctional Facility for Women in Clinton, New Jersey, for defending myself, unintentionally causing the demise of my step-grandfather. And that's another thing that we know. Most women who commit violent crimes against men are doing so defensively. Looking through my eyes, no sooner than life began for me at age 5, my childhood stopped. When I was 5 years young, my mother's first husband, my stepfather, touched and molested me. I want you to hear, guys, and just as a sidebar, they don't want you to hear the real trauma of women. They don't want you to know the pain. They want to drown it out. They don't want women to speak. They don't want you to know their lives and histories, but we will speak anyway. came into my bedroom that early morning, got into bed with me, this is a 5-year-old child. The grooming I knew all too well. I lived it. The environment of my early ages crossed over to my adolescence and adult years, whereas my life seemingly became a reflection of life I witnessed in my own mother's. I was exposed to my mother having sex, using drugs, physical altercations with the men in her life, not to mention the constancy of domestic violence in both mine and my mother's relationships. And so the constancy of these factors was what I had come to live out. Life as I knew life to be. I ran from the life I had been exposed to from an early age. Growing up, I ran to the life I was groomed to know. The love I craved from my mother but didn't receive from her, I went elsewhere, looking to find that love. I used my time in prison to take back control of my life through therapy, groups, counseling, furthering my education, and my faith in God. Never completing and graduating from high school, I made the decision to get my high school diploma. Then went on to pursuing and achieving my first college degree, associate's degree. I challenged myself to do better, and I did so for the sake of overcoming, surviving, and being able to go on living my life. My traumatic past has not ended in vain, but through my story, I am in hopes of saving and empowering all women who relate to a story such as mine. To this day, I continue to want to do better, so I do better. And so I do better because I want better. My traumatic experiences were very real. Fears which have transitioned into a platform I believe in and I stand upon. I worked through dark and difficult storms and did their best to keep me stagnated and mentally bound. I made up in my mind, refusing to no longer be a victim of and to anything in my life. I continued my education for healing, reaching inside myself for the doses of wisdom and knowledge I'll need in life for the rest of my life. Not always an easy task, but I believe in surviving. I strongly believe that the things we go through in life, whether it be negative or positive, the stories and tools and how we might have overcome, they're not at all meant for us to keep to ourselves, but instead for us to share. Again, I hope to save and empower vulnerable women who have yet to save themselves. Since my incarceration, I have remained without any disciplinary sanctions. My institutional record has been and remains unblemished. I have now also completed 67 institutional programs. I am in the midst of pursuing my bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Over 5 years ago, February 23rd, 2018, I submitted an application to New Jersey Governor Philip D. Murphy in great hopes that he would mercifully commute the remainder, as of date, 6 years, 4 months of my sentence. I ask that you please sign, support, share my online petition, which is Help Dawn Jackson Gain Clemency, going to change.org, and I'll make sure to get that post around. Kim Kardashian found great interest in my story back in 2019, and as a result, I, along with 4 members of my family, were featured in her documentary special, Kim Kardashian West, at the time, The Justice Project, on April 5th, 2020 on the Oxygen Channel. 4 other participants from different states have been released from prison, while I remain the last one waiting on consideration, clemency from Governor Murphy. Dear Brittany, thank you so much for taking your time to acknowledge my story. Walking through my trauma wasn't easy, but with in-depth counseling, therapy, friends support, family and friends support, my faith I overcame. Though I've been incarcerated for so long now, over 24 years, this is someone's grandmother, away from my children, but more importantly, my children without their mother, and the loss of my oldest son last year to cancer. Failed appeals, no word from the higher-ups of Governor. Let me tell you, my sister, resilience is powerful, and again, they're not coming to help anybody. Life dealt me the hand from a deck I couldn't reshuffle, but here I am today, and please know this. The fear of allowing ourselves to be heard keeps us enslaved from being heard. Silence never saved me. We all have a for women inside and outside of these walls to know that their voices matter just as much as they do. Thanks again, Brittany, and thank you for everything. Be well. Oh my God. These are the real stories of real women. These are not animals. These are not objects. These are not creatures to be thrown away. These are their real stories. And the people that they are protecting are people coming to look to sexually exploit our nation's most vulnerable women. We say no.
Women say no.
Women say no. Get men out. We will not be silenced. Free the women of Edna Mahan.
Thank you, Brittany. Is there any other women here that want to come up and say something? Not yet. Would you like to speak? We have the lovely Kate.
Hi, I just wanted to say that I did some research online and I did notice that there's 356 inmates in Edna Mahan prison. Out of those 356 inmates, there are 10 biologically male inmates. That's 3%. 3% of those inmates in that prison are male. And that's 3% too much.
Yeah, God. Woo!
Thank you so much. Do we have, I think we have one more letter. I'm good. Do we have one more letter? Joy, would you like to read it?
Give me a second.
Okay. Joy will be coming up to read it. I think then we will be closing our Free Speech for Women event after we've read this letter, unless someone else wants to come up.
Really quick, if you don't already, follow me on YouTube at A Slightly Twisted Female, on Twitter at ASTFXX, and Instagram at A Slightly Twisted Female. If you need to contact me, slightlytwistedfemale@gmail.com. And thank you so much to Jen and these amazing women and all of you.
Yes, and thank you. And you can reach me at RevFemStreetBeat, RevFemStreetBeat on Twitter.
I am my mother's savage daughter, the one who runs barefoot, cursing sharp stones. I am my mother's savage daughter. I will not cut my hair, I will not lower my voice. My mother's child is a savage. She looks for her romance in the colors of stones, in the faces of cats, in the falling of feathers, in the dancing of fire, in the curve of old bones. I am my mother's savage daughter, the one who runs barefoot, cursing sharp stones. I am my mother's savage daughter. I will not cut my hair, I will not lower my voice. My mother's child dances in the darkness. She sings heathen songs by the light of the moon, and watches the stars and renames the planets, and dreams she can reach them with a song and a broom.
New Jersey adopted a transgender policy of allowing male prisoners convicted of all sorts of heinous crimes to identify as women and be housed with women in prison. The decision was a result of a legal settlement between New Jersey State and the American Civil Liberties Union. The ACLU prioritizes gender identity over sex-based rights. They are not defending, nor are they protecting women.
Get men out, that's their motto. The group known as Justice Speaks Free Speech for Women rallied outside the New Jersey state capitol. They're demanding biological men who identify as women be taken out of female prisons. The protests come after 2 inmates at the Edna Mahan Facility in New Jersey were raped and impregnated by this transgender prisoner on your screen. Of the 350 plus inmates at that prison, at least 10 of them are transgender women. For more on this, let's bring 2 women who helped organize that protest, Jennifer Thomas and Brittany Ortiz. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Hello.
Thanks so much for having us.
Brittany, let me start with you. At that protest, your group read letters from some of the female inmates inside that New Jersey facility. Tell us what their message was.
Correct. Yeah. So, and I want to say to the brave women of Edna Mahan who reached out to us, we know that they put their safety on the line to speak out. They are the ones who broke the story of the pregnancies that occurred. We know that the New Jersey Department of Corrections was more than happy to sweep that under the rug. They put themselves on the line despite the heinous track record of Edna Mahan transgressing against women. Their message is that they're afraid. They're terrified. They're begging, and there's no one to listen to them. They feel like they're screaming out into the void. These are some of the worst men. You know, these aren't men who are just trying to get through, do their time. These are, and as we were interviewed by the New York Post, and several of those men were highlighted, one of whom talks about being the handmaiden of Lucifer, and after murdering an Ecuadorian immigrant, a woman who came here to start a new life, that he lapped up her blood, and he considers himself, something of a vampire. These men have found an easy way to access their intended target. And the New Jersey Department of Corrections has just opened the door and allowed these men to flood in and access these women. They're scared. They want help. They're begging for help, and we're here to give them a platform.
Yeah, it's awful that they're allowing this in this prison. I mean, Jennifer, I know that you were met with counter protesters. You had a group of people showing up to the state capitol, waving flags, chanting. One of them had a bullhorn, was trying to drown out the remarks being made by your group. I mean, they even got into a bit of scuffle with the police. They were thrown out. Tell us about that scene there.
Well, there's a group that follows free speech for women around. They followed me from Philly. And anytime that we speak about the rights, privacy, and dignity of women and girls and the conflict with the gender policies, they come and try to silence us. They're effective because they bring noisemakers, but we have combated their tactics with having speakers corners at fully vetted locations that will provide security for women. But they don't want us to speak about this. They don't want us to talk about, men in women's prisons, the policies that they're allowing. For instance, the ACLU is allowing, they're the reason that there's men in prison in New Jersey. They filed a lawsuit in 2019. They won the lawsuit and inserted their policies. And I mean, what is interesting there is it's the American Civil Liberties Union. They do not represent women at all. I mean, that's half the population that they're not representing. They don't acknowledge that there is a conflict in rights and in women's rights that's happening with this. So, and their name keeps coming up over and over again. I don't know if you notice all the posters behind me, but we've been doing this for a while now. And every bill we try to bring forward, we have a bill in Pennsylvania for detransitioners that so that we can extend their statute of limitations. That bill is on the ACLU hit list. They're not protecting children either. So this is a direct, we're directly aiming at the ACLU to get these policies out of Edna Mahan. We want the ACLU, we want to protest the ACLU, because if it weren't for the ACLU, men in New Jersey would not be caged with women.
Well, you know what, Jennifer, and it's not just in New Jersey. According to attorney Harmeet Dillon, in federal prisons alone, there are said to be over 900 biological males housed in women's prison, resulting in massive and ongoing civil rights violations and other torts against women inmates daily. Again, that from lawyer Harmeet Dillon. Your reaction there, I mean, what can people do? Is there any traction nationally on this issue? I've only got about 30 seconds left, but your final thoughts.
It's picking up traction. I mean, our group, we're a strategic group, and we try to predict what is going to pick up the most traction. And because men caging men with women is so heinous, it eclipses the bathroom issue and the locker room issue and the rape shelters. But I mean, they're all connected. So,
if I may, I think the most important thing too that we want to really clarify is that a woman is an adult human female. There's a lot of discussion about what is a trans woman, what is gender identity. That is, very abstract. It's very faith-based. It's very intangible. But one thing that we know is that the definition of a woman is and will continue to be an adult human female. Once organizations like the American Civil Liberties Union and these other, pro-trans groups are able to effectively change that definition, every protection, every piece of law that we have that acknowledges the rights, dignity, and needs of women will overnight be changed and erased. If you change the definition of woman to include men, we have no rights.
Indeed, whether it's in our prisons, in women's sports, got to keep fighting, ladies, and appreciate the work that you're doing. Jennifer Thomas and Brittany Ortiz, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
I am my mother's savage daughter, the one who runs barefoot, cursing sharp stones. I am my mother's savage daughter. I will not cut my hair, I will not lower my voice. My mother's child is a savage. She looks for her romance in the colors of stones, in the faces of cats, in the falling of feathers, in the dancing of fire, in the curve of old bones. I am my mother's savage daughter, the one who runs barefoot, cursing sharp stones. I am my mother's savage daughter. I will not cut my hair, I will not lower my voice. My mother's child dances in the darkness. She sings heathen songs by the light of the moon, and watches the stars and renames the planets, and dreams she can reach them with a song and a broom.